You think ego is your enemy, but the truth is far more dangerous. Your ego is being used against you by those who understand control better than you do. In this video, we expose the psychological levers Machiavelli himself used to tame his ego, weaponize perception, and dominate those who mistook humility for weakness. In every court, every boardroom, every circle of influence, the same silent war is waged, the struggle to control the self before commanding others. Those who fail become puppets of their impulses, pulled by pride, flattered by their enemies, predictable to anyone with patience. But those who master their ego, those who dissect it, discipline it, and turn it into a strategic instrument, they rule. Machiavelli understood this intimately. Power does not belong to the loudest voice or the boldest posture. It belongs to the mind able to bend ego, not suppress it, not deny it, but use it with precision. Today, we enter that mindset, not the sentimental myths of confidence, not the soft lessons of modern self-help, but the ruthless mechanics of psychological command that only a Machiavellian eye can see. Before you can command others, you must first sculpt the image they see, and that begins with mastering the mask you present to the world. Most people cling to their ego as if it were their true identity. But the strategic mind knows that ego is nothing more than an instrument, a tool to be sharpened, altered, or discarded depending on the battlefield. You are not what you feel about yourself. You are what others believe you are, and what they fear you may become. Ask yourself, do you control your ego, or does it expose you? History is littered with rulers who lost everything because they believed their own myth. Consider Emperor Commodus, who bathed in the illusion of his imagined greatness, mistaking theatrical confidence for authority. His ego did not serve him, it betrayed him. Because it was no mask at all, only an unguarded reflection of his vanity, visible to every ambitious enemy waiting for the moment to strike. The strategic mind understands that ego is not a truth, but a performance. When you walk into a room, people do not respond to your inner world. They respond to the version of you they can interpret, categorize, and predict. If your ego is uncontrolled, it becomes easy for them to read you, flatter you, provoke you, or trap you. But a crafted ego, a deliberate mask, gives you flexibility. You can appear confident without being blind, humble without being submissive, dominant without being reckless. And in that space between appearance and intention, power grows. Think of the great statesmen who survived turbulent courts not by acting on their pride, but by shaping a persona that disarmed rivals and confused hostile observers. They never revealed their true ambitions, only the fragments useful for influence. You must learn the same discipline. When you walk among others, imagine your ego as a garment you choose each morning, not an organ you cannot remove. Some days, the mask must be calm and unreadable to prevent others from predicting your next move. Other days, it must be sharp and assertive, designed to discourage challenges before they arise. The key is that you choose the mask, not the world around you. And yet, most people fail in this simple task. They parade their insecurities as aggression, their fears as arrogance, their desperation for validation as confidence. Such people are not difficult to manipulate. They are predictable, reactive, and easily steered by a few calculated words. Imagine a rival who desperately needs to feel respected. A single compliment will blind him. Imagine another who prides himself on being feared. A brief display of indifference will unravel him more effectively than direct confrontation. This is why the mask matters. It protects you from becoming the puppet of your own emotional hunger. But let us go deeper. Psychologically, the ego is a narrative device, a story you tell yourself so you can make sense of your role in the world. A story can be edited. A story can be rewritten. And the most powerful individuals in history understood that the story others see must always be more controlled than the one they whisper to themselves. You must learn to observe yourself as if you were an advisor studying a ruler, noting every impulsive reaction, every sign of pride, every moment where your emotions attempt to seize the throne. When you witness these impulses clearly, you can decide which to display and which to hide. This discipline builds an aura around you, an uncertainty that forces others to stay cautious, respectful, unsure of your limits. And uncertainty is the soil in which influence thrives. Ask yourself, what image do your enemies see when they look at you? Do they see a mind easily provoked, or a strategist who reveals nothing beyond what is useful? Your mask must not merely conceal your ego, it must redefine it. For when the mask becomes deliberate, your power becomes deliberate. And in that moment, you stop being merely human. You become an architect of perception itself. Continue. Strategic humility is not weakness, it is camouflage. You lower your head only to raise your advantage. Throughout history, the most dangerous figures were those who concealed their ambition beneath a quiet, controlled exterior. They understood that pride invites resistance, while humility invites access. Ask yourself, how many doors could open if you stopped announcing your strength and started letting others underestimate you instead? Consider the quiet advisors who shaped empires without ever claiming credit. They survived because they allowed others to feel superior. They knew that those who believe they are in control rarely guard themselves. Strategic humility disarms rivals, calms egos, and invites confessions. People reveal their intentions when they feel unthreatened, and that is when you gain true power. Look at the court of Louis XIV, where nobles competed for attention with loud displays of vanity. Yet the ones who influenced the king most were those who spoke little and listened much. They appeared harmless, even dull, but their silence captured information the loud never heard. This is the paradox of humility: the less you show, the more you learn. Psychologically, people project importance onto those who do not chase validation. You become a mirror, reflecting their ego back to them. They relax, believing you pose no threat. And in that relaxed state, they expose motives, alliances, fears, and weaknesses. All because you chose restraint where others choose display. Do you see how silence sharpens perception? Strategic humility is not pretending to be small, it is pretending to be uninterested. People trust those who appear detached from competition. They share secrets with those who seem unconcerned with advantage. In workplaces, observe how quickly colleagues reveal ambitions when they believe you are uninterested in the same rewards. Your feigned indifference becomes the key that unlocks their guarded truths. Yet the tactic is deeper still. Humility creates asymmetry. While others express themselves openly, you withhold. While they seek recognition, you seek insight. While they act impulsively, you act with calculation. This imbalance allows you to predict their moves long before they understand yours. And predictability, once seen, becomes a weapon in capable hands. Consider a rival who prides himself on dominance. Challenge him openly, and you create an enemy. Yield slightly, appear impressed, and he reveals everything. He grows overconfident, careless, eager to prove superiority. He exposes weaknesses because he believes you pose none. Your humility becomes the blade he never sees until it is too late. There is a reason experienced negotiators speak softly and slowly. It forces the other side to fill the silence with their own anxieties. People disclose more when they feel the need to dominate the conversation. Your strategic quietness becomes the stage on which they reveal themselves. You control the interaction by appearing unconcerned with control itself, but do not confuse this tactic with submission. True humility is chosen, not inherited. It is a cloak worn with purpose, a disguise for a mind measuring every shift in the environment. You are not lowering yourself, you are lowering your visibility. And visibility is often the enemy of influence. Tell me which strategist survives longer, the visible threat or the invisible architect. Strategic humility places you beneath notice, but never beneath power. By resisting the urge to prove yourself, you become a force that others never prepare for. You move quietly, gathering leverage, shaping perceptions, setting the stage. Then, when the moment is right, you strike, not loudly, but decisively. And those who once overlooked you finally see the truth. Humility was never weakness. It was the doorway to your ascension. And now you must confront the final question: if humility can bend rivals, expose intentions, and cloak ambition, What might happen when you combine it with a force far more dangerous? Your capacity to reshape destiny itself? Continue. Flattery is a subtle poison. It lulls the cautious, blinds the vigilant, and intoxicates even the strongest minds. And yet, most perceive it as harmless praise, an innocent nod to ego. Do not be so naive. Every compliment carries a vector of influence, and those who understand this can bend even the proudest adversary to their will. Ask yourself, how often has your judgment been swayed by words you wanted to hear, rather than truths you needed to face? Consider the courts of Renaissance Italy, where ambition was a silent predator. Courtiers who mastered flattery survived, while those who ignored it perished. They knew that people are rarely immune to the lure of admiration. Praise is a mirror, and when held skillfully, it reflects not only desire, but direction. A few carefully chosen words can turn an ally into a confidant, or an enemy into a puppet. And you, if you learn this art, can become the architect of that reflection. Flattery is not merely about appealing to vanity. It is about uncovering the desires hidden beneath the surface. Every individual harbors a hunger, some for recognition, some for dominance, others for acceptance. When you recognize this hunger, you can feed it selectively, creating dependence without revealing your own hand. Have you noticed how kings and CEOs alike are more pliable when someone acknowledges what they crave most? That is no accident. It is calculated psychology, wielded by those who understand that perception is reality. Look at Cleopatra, whose reign was entwined with perception as much as power. She knew how to praise Julius Caesar and later Mark Antony in ways that magnified their egos while securing her own position. She did not flatter blindly. She flattered strategically, emphasizing strengths that served her ambitions and carefully omitting those that might threaten her. And in this, she taught a lesson that echoes across centuries. Flattery, when wielded as a weapon, can shape alliances, manipulate desires, and alter the course of power itself. But there is a deeper layer. Flattery exposes weaknesses. When someone accepts praise, they lower their guard. They begin to believe in the image you reflect, not the truth they conceal. At this moment, subtle guidance becomes possible. A compliment can become a suggestion, a nudge, a framework for thought implanted without resistance. Have you ever noticed how people confide more easily after hearing words that elevate their sense of self? That is no coincidence. That is influence disguised as admiration. And yet, caution is paramount. Clumsy praise is transparent, and transparency breeds suspicion. A strategic mind must measure every syllable, calibrating tone, context, and intent. Too little and the effect is lost. Too much, and it becomes obvious. A trap they can smell and resist. The mastery lies in balance, making the other feel superior while ensuring the source of their elevation remains unseen. This is where most fail, mistaking flattery for honesty, when in truth it is precision. Observe modern arenas, the boardroom, the political stage, the social hierarchy. The same dynamics persist. Leaders are won over not only by strength, but by those who recognize their deepest needs and reflect them convincingly. A single well-timed compliment can redirect conversations, diffuse resistance, or secure cooperation. It is a quiet dominion, less visible than force, but often more enduring. The loudest declaration rarely achieves what a whispered acknowledgement can. So, the question you must ask yourself is not whether to flatter, but how to do so without revealing your hand. Can you identify the desires that shape your rivals, allies, and even friends? Can you offer them a mirror so convincing that they fail to see you shaping it? For in this subtle interplay, you discover a truth as old as power itself. Those who control the reflections control the actions. And control, in the end, is everything. And now, if you have learned how praise can become a weapon, consider the next step. What happens when you combine this influence with silence, strategy, and patience? The mind is ready to bend, but the world is yet to be conquered. Continue. Predictability is death in disguise. When others can foresee your reactions, your moves, your decisions, you are no longer a force. They are merely waiting for your next error. Every emotion, Every gesture, every uncalculated word becomes ammunition in the hands of a patient rival. Ask yourself, how often have you acted impulsively, revealing more than you intended, and watched someone exploit it to their advantage? That is the trap of the uncontrolled ego. It transforms you from predator into prey. Consider the fall of King Charles I of England. His emotional displays and rigid adherence to principle made him predictable, allowing parliamentarians to anticipate and counter his every move. His pride blinded him to the subtle currents of influence swirling around him. Those who appear transparent are often the easiest to manipulate. Contrast him with someone like Cardinal Richelieu, who cloaked his intentions beneath a calm, calculated exterior, leaving opponents uncertain, hesitant, and ultimately controlled. Which path would you rather walk? Humans are wired to detect patterns, to predict behavior, to anticipate responses. This is both a strength and a vulnerability. When your reactions are consistent, they form a map others can follow. They learn your thresholds, your triggers, your weak points. And once the map is drawn, your freedom to maneuver shrinks, your leverage diminishes, and your power erodes without a single blow striking you. The strategic mind, by contrast, cultivates unpredictability. Silence where others speak, measured words where others explode, unexpected decisions where others conform. You must learn to respond in ways that defy expectation. By doing so, you seize the initiative, forcing others to react to you, rather than allowing their reactions to dictate your course. Do you see the power in unpredictability? It is subtle but devastating. History offers countless lessons. Take the campaigns of Napoleon Bonaparte. He rarely followed conventional tactics. He varied his approach, attacking where least expected, retreating where anticipated. His enemies studied his prior victories, anticipating patterns, only to be undone because he refused to be predictable. Control, in this context, comes not from brute force alone, but from the art of uncertainty. The psychological dominion over those who attempt to read you. Predictability is most dangerous when coupled with emotional transparency. When anger, frustration, or desperation leak from your actions, they become a roadmap for manipulation. Think of the boardroom, the political stage, the courtly intrigue. Those who reveal impatience or eagerness invite traps. A rival watches, notes the patterns, waits for the predictable outburst, and then exploits it. Your power diminishes with every uncontrolled reaction. So how does one cultivate unpredictability? Begin by observing yourself as an outsider would. Track your tendencies, your habitual reactions, your emotional triggers. Then deliberately alter them. Speak softly when you would shout, wait when you would act, smile when you would scowl. Confuse expectations, and in doing so, you destabilize the strategic calculations of those who would oppose you. But unpredictability is not chaos. It is a controlled calculus. It is choosing which patterns to show and which to conceal, and revealing them only when it serves your greater purpose. Like a masterful chess player, you anticipate several moves ahead, ensuring that even when your actions appear erratic, they are, in truth, instruments of precise strategy. Consider modern examples: CEOs who withhold emotion, diplomats who deflect provocation, negotiators who delay decisions. Their unpredictability confounds rivals, creates hesitation, and forces concessions. You do not need to be louder, stronger, or faster. You need to be unreadable. That alone creates dominance. Ask yourself now if predictability is your cage, and controlled unpredictability is your key. How often have you unwittingly surrendered power simply by acting in the expected way? How many victories have slipped through your hands because your rivals could anticipate your next move? And if predictability is so dangerous, consider what happens when you combine it with the silent weapon of observation, the subtle art of strategic humility, and the manipulative power of flattery. Alone, these tactics are formidable. Together, they become unstoppable. The question now is not whether you can be unpredictable, but whether you are willing to dismantle the patterns that have always defined you, and in doing so, reshape the game entirely. Continue. Power is rarely asserted with noise. True dominance does not roar, it whispers inevitability. Those who believe that force alone commands obedience misunderstand the subtleties of influence. Presence itself can shape decisions, bend wills, and dictate outcomes without a single word. Ask yourself, how often have you been swayed, not by argument, but simply by the authority conveyed in posture, glance, or quiet assurance? That is the essence of controlled grandeur. Consider the reign of Augustus Caesar. He did not seize Rome through spectacle alone, nor through displays of fury. His strength was subtle, embedded in an aura that suggested inevitability. To challenge him was to act against fate itself. The senators, the generals, the citizens. They followed not merely because they feared, but because his presence commanded alignment. He was immovable yet unseen in his calculations, a master of quiet authority. How many leaders today understand that force without presence is fleeting, and presence without calculation is hollow? Controlled grandeur begins with perception. Humans are instinctively drawn to certainty. They trust those who appear composed, confident, and unshakable. Yet the truly powerful understand that the appearance of certainty is itself a tool. Your body, your gaze, your measured voice, each becomes a signal, a subtle instruction to others about their place in relation to you. Even before you speak, influence has begun. What you embody is more persuasive than any argument you can utter. History offers countless examples. Look at the court of Catherine de' Medici, where manipulation and subtle power dictated outcomes more than armies or law. She wielded influence through controlled appearance, appearing fragile and accommodating while secretly orchestrating alliances, betrayals, and negotiations. Her power was not in the visible, but in the perception she cultivated. Her enemies often underestimated her, and in doing so, walked directly into the webs she had prepared. Do you see the lesson? Dominance is often silent, invisible, yet absolute. Psychologically, controlled grandeur leverages a principle as old as humanity itself. People obey the signals they perceive. They respond to what they believe is inevitable. A leader who radiates calm, certainty, and strategic patience imposes a mental order upon others before they even act. You do not need to demand loyalty. You need to make loyalty appear natural, inevitable, the only rational choice. Every move, every pause, every glance becomes a carefully placed thread in the web of influence. But beware, grandeur is effective only when disciplined. The loud, the ostentatious, the overbearing often achieve the opposite of influence. They provoke resistance, suspicion, and rivalry. Napoleon's boldness in the field inspired armies, but when unchecked in the halls of politics, it provoked fear and conspiracy. True dominance requires balance, enough presence to inspire alignment, enough restraint to prevent envy, enough subtlety to shape decisions invisibly. Controlled grandeur is also about timing. Consider the subtlety of Frederick the Great, who wielded authority through careful demonstration of capability rather than constant assertion. He allowed others to act, then intervened at precise moments, reinforcing his indispensability. By shaping perception of inevitability, he commanded respect without overt display. Timing is the silent companion of presence. Misplace it, and authority collapses. Master it, and it becomes invisible leverage. Your task is to embody this principle consciously. Observe how others respond to you. Where do they hesitate? Where do they defer? Where do they unconsciously yield to your presence? Learn to control these reactions through poise, calculation, and silent authority. Speak less, move deliberately, and let your influence ripple outward from the space you occupy. Each subtle act reinforces the illusion of inevitability. Ask yourself, how many battles, negotiations, or conflicts could be won before a word is spoken, simply because others perceive the power you wield? How many outcomes could bend in your favor because your presence alone communicates command? The answer is often more than you imagine. And now, if you have mastered the silent art of controlled grandeur, consider the final question: what happens when it is combined with the mastery of ego, the calculated humility, the weaponized flattery, and the unpredictable mind? Alone, each is formidable. Together, they form a dominance so complete that resistance becomes almost unthinkable. Continue. Power is most potent when it is invisible, when others act as you desire, yet believe it is their own choice. This is the apex of control, the silent dominion, the art few ever grasp. We have seen how ego can be weaponized, humility exploited, praise twisted, unpredictability mastered, and presence made inevitable. Each tactic alone bends a moment to your will. Together they shape entire realms of influence without a single overt command. Ask yourself, how many rivals have you already allowed to dictate your strategy because you revealed too much? How often have you acted visibly, when invisibility would have secured the victory? The wise cultivate perception as carefully as any army, knowing that domination begins in the mind of another before it reaches the battlefield. Now, the question remains, will you remain a pawn in the designs of others, or will you step into the shadows of influence, shaping outcomes unseen, yet absolute? Share your thoughts below. Subscribe to uncover more Machiavellian strategies that bend the will of men, and share this knowledge. After all, control begins with those who understand it first.